So in this execution process, the most critical part is acquiring and developing a project team and then managing it. So now we look into various stages of team formation and planning. So this is to get you acquainted to how the team evolves. So we have two axes here. So the first, the on the x-axis you have the functions wherein you get oriented to the task and then move to a stage where you go into effective problem solving. Whereas in the y-axis you have personal relationship between the group managers and group members and how it goes from various stages and final to the output. So this is a Tuckman's model of the various stages of team development. So first we'll focus on the first stage. So the first stage is the forming of the group or the team. So what happens once you put together a project, a fresh project, a group of heterogeneous people come together as we've seen in the earlier slide. So this heterogeneous people, they can be master of their own trade, but still as a group, they do not have the proper cohesion. They are still an immature group. So during the stage of the team formation, what happens is there is a lot of confusion, there's an uncertainty, and then people, tend to close off to themselves. They try to assess the situation wherein how the team is, how the other persons are, and they try to test what is the people's capabilities. Some people will say, decide that, okay, let me stay for within myself, let me analyze. Some people will be more excited, they'll try new things, they'll try to project themselves out. And so here what happens is the other people will try to test out others, and then as a part of the team then they'll try to bring in their own goals, try to define their own goals, and then they'll try to get acquainted between each other. Then there might be certain groups that are forming up within the team, some focus groups or something, and then finally they also try to establish rules within themselves. So this is the first stage of the team. So I think you can correlate within yourself when you first get into a gang or into a friendship circle. This is what happens. You try to understand the situation where you are in. You try to get into grasp of what is happening around you and the people outside you. Because at this stage, you have not yet worked intensively on a common objective. Because at this stage, you're still trying to figure out what the objectives are. So that is where you have a high level of dependency requirement between the group members. So you need to understand like what is what and who is who. So next stage, what you're doing is in the task functions where you organize for a task so that you understand that this is the task that is need to be executed. So this stage is called as a storming stage. So wherein you'll try to target towards a single activity. So what happens during the storming phase is that there will arise a lot of disagreement over the current priorities. So one group will say one task need to be prioritized over the others because see, obviously you're all working on the same project, but still the task might get different priorities. So what you have is the group is not fused together. There are different factions to it. So and within the faction there also be a struggle for the leadership unless otherwise there's a actual team leader or a project leader assigned, but still the project leader also is a part of the group. Please bear in mind. So this team leader himself will try to ascertain his leadership over the others, and the team members also will try to test his leadership capabilities. And so this kind of situation will lead to a lot of tension, hostility, and information withheld during this stage as the fraction group. So typically in here, the personal relationship is more of in a conflict situation. And in the next stage where you get a little bit of, maturing, that is called as a norming phase, wherein we have a central leader. That is now the leader will get, accepted within the team. All the members will get to a common understanding. So now people get to trust each other. They used to believe each other. They can understand the various skill sets. They'll set their own working standards and then also establish, some stable rules. That is, they'll identify, okay, I'll do this, you do that. so that we together can achieve this objective. And now there will be a cooperation between the team members and the project. So this is where you'll actually start to see some meaningful work coming out of the team. So this can take any time frame that is can be. It can be either within a week or a month, or might not even go in this stage. But typically, all the teams will go typically in this route. This is the team model that is developed. So in this, what you're doing is you'll still work on, you start to deliver some sort of result. There is some sort of information that is going into the team. And here what happens is you try to work together. So there's a cohesion that happens within the group. So you become a sharing group. The information gets shared freely. So in the next stage, so here is where you'll start to perform. So this where even the leadership structure, the hierarchical structure is kind of broken, and you become interdependent with all other. There is uninterrupted stream of information, stream of flow that is happening within the team. You know who to go and how to support each other. You know that this person has this capability, maybe we have to support them in this. So you have this general understanding. You are open to each other. You outrightly helpful it. You take away all the illusions. You take away all the misunderstandings, and have an acceptance towards each other. So what will do is it will help that one person will be helpful, will be flexible to the others, because you become more understanding to each other. So suppose if one of the team members say has a personal commitment or so, then you can fill in their shoes. They said, okay, you go ahead, I'll take care of this. Because now the objective is not to project oneself, but to that of the team as a whole. So you share the responsibilities based on the trust that you have built in the previous stage, in the norming stage. So now you become an effective team. So now you start to deliver real results. So this is where you have a very strong interdependence between your team members, and also you have a strong focus on only solving the problem, because you do not need to have to ensure that the information is proper, the tasks are well defined, and all those things. So this is where the group is highly effective. That is, you perform towards the necessary action. So finally, so this is the final stage. That is, we'll see in the later part, that is closing of the project. So during the closing of the project, the original project objectives attained, and hence you go about and disband the group. So what happens is you break the group as the project objectives are met, and in that part there is a disengagement of the current activities that are going about. Now these people will become a part of the change that is going to be happen here, because once they have disbanded from the current project, they have to be taken in for a different project or a program. What happens is you naturally get to tend to stick with the previous team. You have an anxiety about getting separated, and ending the positive relationship that you have. You have to end all this positive feeling that you had towards the team member, and the trust that you had developed, and you might have developed a very good bonding with your leader, and now you go into a self-evaluation period. So this is a cyclical process of a team building activity. So this is the later part of the team stage that is not much talked about. So this understanding will be useful for you when you are either a part of a new team member. So maybe at that part, maybe if the team is already performing, then you will feel as an odd man out in that situation. So then you have to understand these various factors that play into a team, so that you can take everything in a positive spirit and try to interact between the people much, and always try to be in this position. And also, if you're a team manager, you have to be clear of these influencing factors. You do not have to be carried upon by emotions. Keep those emotional intelligence parameters high, and work towards common understanding of the team. Eliminate all the differences that you have amongst the members. Be supportive. Try to attain this norming and performing stage as quick as possible. Suppose if there is a lot of friction in this stage, and then even though there may be a pseudo norming stage, but finally it might bring out the downfall of the project. So always the project leader should strive to understand the team member's strength. The team member's support has to be garnered by the team leader. He has to prove his leadership in a positive way. There are different styles of leadership that we'll see in the next slide. So you need to exhibit all those leadership styles. So this does not apply only to the team leader, but each and every member has to demonstrate those leadership traits so that you can all work towards the common objective and attain the targets in a well systematic and a smooth manner. So this affiliative leadership style is to try and bring in all people together. So he'll try to support you more. He'll try to ensure that there's a lot of trust built into the system. He'll try to support in each and every manner it works so that the main focus is that the team should be a singular one. So whatever it required for, the leader will try to do it. So that is the affiliative type of leadership. He'll try to bring in people together. In the democratic leadership, what is that? An equal opportunity will be given to all the people in the team so that they can voice out of their concerns equally. So that is the democratic setup. So each and every person has a say on the decision that's going to be taken. So there's going to be equal participation on the rules. The leader will push the team members to voice out all their concerns in without any restrictions so that all the critical feedbacks are caught into the system. Whereas the pace setting leader, what he does by example. He will lead all the projects together. So he'll try to take all the initiatives together. But sometimes what he'll do is he might not take people in turn. So he can be a little bit of opposite to the affiliative type of leadership because he will try to demonstrate all the activities by himself or herself. So that is the pace setting type of leadership. And finally, we have the commanding or the autocratic type of leadership, wherein all the decisions are taken by the leader only, and none of the decisions are questioned or commented against. So that is the commanding type of leadership. So typically, a good leader is one who can effectively switch between all the six leadership styles as the situation demands. For example, in certain situations where genuine concerns has to be voiced out, then he has to be democratic and he has to be affiliative in the sense that he can build cohesion within the team by supporting them. And also he has to be a pace setting leader, demonstrating by example and leading by example. He can show that this is how it has to be done, but then it is up to you how to do. So in that case, a pace setting leader can also be a coaching leader saying that, see, this is my way of doing it and the organization expects you to do it. So you do, and if there are any issues, please let me know. I'll help you out. I'll coach you. I'll mentor you all this thing. So this is how you can change the face of your demonstration. And a leader should be a very good visionary because he must not look into the short term, but rather a long term. Always see the big picture, how your small project is going to impact the organization or how you can turn out this project in a better way so that this project can lead to a set of different new project initiatives that can be beneficial to the organization. And finally, in certain cases where the conflicts rises out of hand, then the leader should be in a commanding position. He should be in a respectable way wherein he can command those activities that can have to be taken care by the team members. So a good leader should have a mix of all these six leadership qualities that have to be cultivated during this course of project. So when you're involving yourself in a project, which all of you would be, so try to focus on the various leadership styles and try to develop them by yourself. And also please do remember that you need to have an excellent emotional intelligence also in place. That is, emotional intelligence means you do not react to circumstances. You do not react emotionally because in a project, the end objective is just to deliver the project objectives. You do not take things personally. Please leave out emotions out of your decision making process. Do not take issues directly at heart. They are just directed at the task that has been done. So if you keep your emotions in check, then you can be an effective team leader as well as a team member. So with this, we'll go to the next part, that is the project monitoring and controlling process. So now let's get back to the project management scope. So here in this monitoring and control process, the definition, if you could recollect, it is the process that is required to track, review, and orchestrate the progress and performance of the project. So what we typically do here, the knowledge areas that are looked into is we monitor and control the project work, perform integrated change control, validate the scope, control schedule, control the costs, control stakeholder engagement, control the procurements, control risks, and control communications. Finally, also control the quality. So what we are seeing here is we're seeing the different, almost all the knowledge areas. We are monitoring, managing, and controlling the processes that are involved here. So typically what during this phase, we need to have different inputs and outputs and tools and techniques that are used to do them. So the inputs this to this phase, because this constitute most of our activities. So here we should have the project management plan from the previous stage, and we need to have all these project documents in hand so that you monitor at various stages where are we against the recorded project documents. So where are we in terms of the cost, in terms of the milestone, in terms of quality, risk, and also schedule other forecasts that are being considered. So it all been listed in the documents that we have already prepared in the previous stages. So we monitor each and every one of the criteria here against the current actual one and take control of it. And also we look at the agreements that we have made and work performance information that we have collected in the previous stages, and EEF and OPA. So this EEF and OPA or project management terminologies, let us not worry about it in much in detail, but let me just give you a simple overview of it. EEF means enterprise environmental factor, whereas OPA means organization process assets. So simply terming is that this enterprise environmental factor, EEF, is the governing conditions for the project or the organization as a whole. So it means that you do not have any control over it. So all your project has to adhere within this EEF functionality. This EEF can be internal or external. For example, internal means your organization culture, the rules and the regulations that are already in place in the organization, because you cannot overcome them. So your project has to get constrained within this EEF constraint that you already have. So those are our internal constraints. External are sometimes there is a major political policy change that is coming in, or based on a law that is coming in, so or existing laws that are available. So those are the guidelines within which your project has to work on. So those are the environmental factors that is influencing your project. So these EEF you cannot control over them. So this monitoring and control process again has to get guided or constrained within what is already permitted within your EEF. Whereas this OPA, organization process assets, typically comes out from the previous experiences or the internal project related processes that you put in place. So for example, based on the previous process or previous projects, you constitute a change in the process or templates that you follow so that you can have or cannot or need not follow based on your requirement. For example, for the current project, you deem that the existing, for example, the project charter template is not applicable for the current project that you're handling. So then you can modify this OPA assets to suit to your current project requirement. So these EEF and OPA goes way back during our planning stage itself. So based on the planned EEF and OPA resources and how do you control them in this phase. So this is what it's all about for this inputs. So next, going into the tools and techniques that are available to involve in this process. So what you're doing is you have to have a frequent review meetings with expert panel, be it your HOD or other department experts who can comment on the monitoring process that you have here and control process so that they can review on how the project is going on. So towards this, what you have to do in terms of consolidating the data is that you have to perform an alternative analysis, then do a cost benefit analysis, and then perform an earned value analysis for your cost benefits, and then root cause analysis in terms of risk or failures, and then go for a trend analysis for forecasting, and then variance analysis to evaluate what are the difference in the quality of your product. So these are the different data analysis tools that you have under your disposal. So if you're interested, you can go and investigate into each and every one of these tools. But towards the end of the lecture, we'll also quickly go through the basic project management tools that will help you to navigate. So finally, using this data analysis tools and the expert panel, you end up at a decision to either to change the course of the project or not. So finally, the outputs what you get in this process is that any change request, that is the current activity has to be modified in a certain manner based on the either the change input requirement, or during the process you deem that this direction is not suitable, you have to move in the next step. So those kind of changes have to be tracked and monitored. And next is all the work performance reports have to be generated, as we have seen earlier with the work performance data and the information. You process them and then build in reports, and the project management plan will get updated based on the current activities that you are performing, and these updates will also get reflected in the project documents that you have taken up. So this is the monitoring and controlling process. So finally, going on to the project closing phase. So in this closing process, to go back to the definition, so this is a process performed to conclude all the activities across all the project management processes to formally complete the project phase or contractual obligations. So if you could recollect, in the first stage, what we did is we started off with the project starter. So what we're doing is in this closing stage, we close all the project commitments, we close all the procurements. So typically what we do here is we take in all the inputs, that is we start from the project starter, then take in the management plan, then the project documents, and consider all the accepted deliverables that we have figured out in the execution phase, and take in all the agreements. Again, look into all the OPA documents that we have, take in all the procurement documentation, consolidate all the business documents. So with these inputs, then you move over to the expert panel, wherein you verify all the documents, you perform how you fare against the given target and what is the actual. This is done all through meetings, and then finally what you do is you conclude this by specifying the final product or the service or the result transition from one stage to other, so that you deliver, you conclude that you have attained on the given target. And then if required, you update your organization process assets based on your learnings and findings, and then prepare a final report and attach them with all the updated project documents. So with this final consolidation of the information, you close the project. So this is how you go about the general project management process. So to put it simply, considering all the activities that we are seeing here, a project manager has to have these roles and responsibilities. So what he does is, a good project manager should take ownership of the whole project. So again, we're trying to emphasize is that you do not need to have a project manager title to you in order to exhibit these skills. As we had seen earlier in the team skills and the project leadership skills, you have to take ownership irrespective of the title that you have. You have to take the ownership of the whole project. So next is, the project manager should be proactive and should not be reactive. So proactive in terms of attending all the risks, attending the requirements, and not reactive is you do not wait for those situations to get happened and then only react. And also he must be emotionally prudent. So the project manager also plans his or her activity adequately, including all the dimensions of the planning into it. You think forward, you think with the previous examples that you have, so that all the dimensions are brought into the planning stage itself of the project, and is authoritative, as we said in the leadership style. That is, you are able to take leadership, take ownership and take informed decisions, but not an authoritarian, because you do not want to be taken as a person who just blindly commands. Okay, so you have to be authoritative in each and every part of your activity, but not an authoritarian response. And you should be decisive in taking the decision. So that means that you take all the decisions based on the data that you have taken. So by that data, you have to be confident and presentable in those data information. That is, you're decisive up to the point. And you should be a very good communicator. See, all the activities or tasks that you're doing is expressed only based on the communication that you have. So this communication is two front. One is a verbal communication and a non-verbal communication. So please take a due care on all the verbal communication that you have and also the non-verbal communication based on your expressions, your body language, and also the type of presentations, your reports that you have. You need to have a complete command over all these features. So you need to be a very good communicator of the ideas that you want to communicate. It should be clear and crisp. So next is you have to manage by data and facts and not going by gut feeling or by uninformed optimism. That is, you do not take it to your feelings. All the decisions as spoken about earlier always have to be backed by hard facts and figures so that it will help the other team members also to take an informed decision. They are no longer swayed by their own decisions. So always, as said earlier, you have to be leading by example. You have to set the pace of your team. You have to lead, showing that this is how it has to be done. And also, you have to have a very clear judgment of how to take it. So, this sound judgment means that you're not biased and you're always leading by example and always have strong and hard facts that have backing your judgment. And always have to be a motivator, as we seen earlier. You have to be a coaching type of leader wherein you can motivate all others to go get in the same wagon to try and improve their own skill sets so that they can improve as a person and also have can contribute a lot to the team. And also should be very diplomatic. Obviously during the course of a project we'll encounter a lot of issues between be it interpersonal or any other thing. So you need to be very diplomatic handling all the issues, making sure the team gets bonded very strongly and you have a very strong dependence level within you within your team so that you can achieve the project guidelines in a focused manner. And finally, you also need to be able to delegate the activities that you need to do. For example, delegation is just not simply redirecting it. You still take ownership of certain activities, but certain other activities, you direct them to suitable persons in your team and take it to completion. You monitor them and encourage them to get completed. So it means that suppose you're a part of a team, you're not a leader, you're not a project manager, but you're a part of a team, and some activity comes in, and you have the flexibility to do it. And if you understand that maybe that activity you cannot take up now, and you feel that this activity can be taken care by another person, then you can of course delegate them. You can pass out this activity to the next person, maybe he who can have take it do it more effectively and in a shorter time, and also maybe he is not loaded that much. So this again has to be taken in a diplomatic manner. If you're leader, then you can delegate directly, but if you're a team member and if you're delegating, it has to be properly communicated. It has to be made sure your team leader and your colleague also understands that it is not a activity of passing responsibility around, but taking an informed decision, taking delegating the task so that it is done effectively and correctly. So before concluding, we'll look into the various project management tools in brief so that you can try to implement in the whatever activities that you're doing in a small manner so that it can help you out. Even if it's a small task, even if you're not involved in a project, it will help you out to take it up in a structured manner. So the first thing is the project charter. So this is one such example. As we discussed, it includes what is the project name, who is the sponsor, who is the manager, and when it is starting, what is the description of the project, what is the scope of it, where this project is going to get impacted, what are the different constraints in terms of the time, budget, scope, or quality, and what are the project deliverables that you have. And by taking up this project, what are the benefits that you're looking at? What are the KPI? KPI means key performance indicators. So by which you give out these specific targets. What is the current baseline that is now, and what you intend to do based on this project? And then who are the stakeholders and what are the risks that are involved in it? So it might not be detailed if you're not in a a structured project, but still for every activity that you're doing it, try to conceptualize these factors so that it will help you to plan effectively. And this is an example of the risk rating where you quantify the activity against the likelihood of the risk, again, and the severity of the risk. So this rating index will uh, quantify where you have to take it. Suppose if an activity falls in the catastrophic region of say 20 to 25 in that range, then it needs that the project has to be stopped at that point because continuing on will impact the overall project itself. So you have to look back into the documents that you have to look back into the process so that identifying the risk earlier and then attacking them will help you to stay on track. So this is one such example of risk rating wherein you quantify the likelihood and severity of the risk. And the next and most foremost frequently used part of this project management that everybody should be aware of is the Gantt chart. It is nothing but it can be also done on Excel. A lot many tools available online. So even if you're doing a simple drawing, AutoCAD drawing, you can still quantify it in Gantt chart, stating that the first process is to open it up. Suppose there are 6 different parts in a drawing, you can constitute one part of the other as a sequence of activities. So typically what you do is, this is one such example taken from projectmanagement.com. So here what we're doing is the tasks are split down into major and micro levels, and then each are identified a separate timestamp, and then dependencies between the tasks are being done, and milestones have been defined so that you'll get to understand the flow of the project, where you are, and if any delay will, how it is impacting on the overall time plan of the project. So this is where this Gantt chart is going to be of heavy use to us. So I would request you to make yourself familiar with the usage of this Gantt chart so that you can apply it on almost every activity that you happen to do so that your activities get more streamlined and you can still focus on the major activity while any disturbance in the timeline will alert you by looking at this directly. So on concluding remarks, so in this session, what we had seen was basically all about project management techniques. So we were looking simply at this. In order to execute the project, we need to take a note of the scope, the cost, and the time that is involved in the project, and also manage the quality, resources, and risk in time so that you deliver the project as expected. So towards this, we have followed processes, that is you initiate the project process and then plan it out, execute them, monitor and control it, and finally close it out. So this is all about project management that I would like to talk to you about today. So now this brings us to the closing remarks of this AutoCAD session that we had for the past 12 weeks. So this is the epilogue session for this course. So what we are seeing is, from beginning we saw what is the AutoCAD draft, typically what is drafting is all about, and where AutoCAD features in, and what are the different basic drawing techniques that starts from line, arc, circles, and oops, arrays, and then we moved on to the different editing techniques that help us in terms of break, offset, move, copy, array, and trim. So next we also see how to manipulate the views in 2D that we have using pan, zoom, And we also looked into different steering wheels that are available as commands, so that to quickly move through the segments that we had. And also we looked at the various selection techniques we had. And in week 4 we were looking at the different editing techniques in this MN section, specifically on this text commands, multi-line text, styles, color, line types, and then editing such as stretch, scale, extension, joining, lengthen. So we had seen a lot of techniques on those. And then in week 5 in manufacturability, we were focusing on the internal section demonstration using the hatches, and then curving off the edges using chamfer command, fillet commands. And also we looked into several inquiry techniques such as list, distance, radius, angle, and particularly area. And in week 6 and 7, we were focusing a lot on the GD&T techniques. What are the theory behind those things? And also, we had looked into the dimensioning techniques in AutoCAD along with the tolerance specifications. And in the week 8, we were looking at the various productivity enhancement techniques. That is, we are looking at the blocks, geometric constraints, layers, and also typically into the one key shortcuts. So typically from week 8 onwards, we focus more on the actual usage of the drawing, demonstrating of the drawings, how to do it faster, how to do it quicker, how to propagate them. That's in week 9. We were looking into in collaborate effectively. We were looking at using external drawings as extras, and then using the functionality of xbind. We looked into tool palace and design center, how we can use it to our requirements. And then in week 10 particularly, we were looking at how to do different type of plotting, particularly in terms of PDF or in terms of drawing, and setting up plotter configurations, and all those things we had looked in week 10. And also we had looked into a powerful technique called as macros that can quickly go about the task in a straightforward way. And also we had used those macros in our own custom tool palettes so that we can customize the application the way we want. And week 11, we looked into creating our own commands. Instead of using AutoCAD commands, we created our own commands to do a set of activities using this auto list techniques. And then in this week, we had looked into project management techniques that we need to be aware of. What are the skills required for a good leader, and what are the different project management tools that you can use. And also we had also looked into various file management techniques, how to name the files, how to name the folders, and what are the different version control tools that are available and how you can do them yourself. So we believe the techniques that are being covered over the past 12 weeks would really help you out in mastering AutoCAD, and also, take up these skills onto actual organization situations where you can effectively demonstrate them, adding value to both personally as well as the organization. And so wish you all a very good luck in your personal and professional career. Thank you.